It's nearly here. It's nearly here. Elden Ring, in case you hadn't noticed, is nearly here. Now, if you're one of the few lucky people who got access to Elden Ring's network test, you have already had a great taste of what this game has to offer, but that's apparently just scratching the surface of what's to come. Because you know what? I cannot wait to start exploring the lands between in full. And in order to set your mouths to drooling, let's take a look at some big bads that we cannot wait to try and take down. Try being the operative word. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and this is Elden Ring, 10 bosses we can't wait to fight. Number 10, Giant Lord Radahn. Now, Elden Ring is unusual for a From Software game in that it's going to be an open world, meaning that players can actually tackle the world in the order that they see fit. With this in mind, there are several different boss types. You've got field bosses, which are lesser bosses, which give the message foe defeated on death, greater foes, which are found blocking progress or guarding powerful items, which offer up the greater foe defeated message, and finally, we have the demigods, aka lords, which will function as the big bad bosses of Elden Ring's traditional dungeons. And one of these lords, Giant Lord Radahn, appears in Elden Ring's story trailer, which dropped in December 2021. An imposing, hulking figure befitting of his name, the Giant Lord wields not one, but two huge curved broadswords. He also looks pretty damn pissed off in the trailer, and we can imagine that he's definitely going to be one of those From Software bosses that is so difficult it becomes a huge reward to actually just beat him. He's clearly very important to the overall story of Elden Ring, and we can't wait to square up to him and probably die impaled on one of those massive swords several times over. Number 9, Godwyn the Golden. Next up from the demigod crew, we've got Godwyn the Golden. Despite being apparently very dead according to Elden Ring's story trailer, he is surely a strong candidate for not only being one of the game's most epic bosses, but possibly even the final boss altogether. Now, death really means anything in From Software games, and Elden Ring seems to revolve around the cycle of death as well. In the story trailer, we see him bleed out on the ground before the camera pans to his eye, which begins to twitch and seemingly mutate. And you know what that means, everyone? He's gonna come back to life, ready for round 2. Now, there's actually another boss called Godwyn the Golden as well, and I don't actually know if this is Godwyn's resurrected form or someone else entirely, but we wouldn't be surprised given the scope of this game if there's space for 2 golden boys. We know little about him at the moment, apart from apparently the Rune of Death was stolen and that the demigods are beginning to fall, starting with Godwyn himself. With him being the first to die, we have little doubt that he'll be an important player in the overall arcing plot of Elden Ring. Number 8, Flying Dragon Agheel. Now, if you were one of the lucky ones who got access to the network test of Elden Ring, you may have already had the chance to fight Flying Dragon Agheel. For the rest of us, though, we're just waiting patiently to fight this huge dragon in one of From's largest arenas yet. Now, this flying dragon has been showcased as part of the game's marketing, particularly to showcase how dynamic combat can be by utilizing the new steed mechanic. While we've come toe to claw with many a dragon before in From Software titles, we've never had the facility to battle the dragon whilst making use of a mount, adding in an exciting and dynamic new element to the fight where the combat should be much faster paced and less methodical than what we're used to. Number 7, Malenia, Blade of Miquella. While she's not a demigod, we already know that there'll be a chance to fight with Malenia, the red-haired warrior who fights with Giant Lord Radahn in the Elden Ring story trailer. From what little we've seen of the fight, it looks like it's gonna be a stunner. Malenia engages the player in a great-looking field of white flowers, and she looks like she'll be a very fast, unforgiving boss. She'll be using a prosthetic arm, which, of course, she'll be using to impale the player with in a deadly finishing move. She's already a fan favourite amongst the growing Elden Ring community, and has even been dubbed the Valkyrie, meaning that Malenia might well join the likes of Ornstein and Smough as one of the most iconic From Software bosses ever. Number 6, Moonlord Ranala. We know very little from the official marketing about the Moonlord Ranala, one of the Elden Ring's demigods. However, thanks to one of the big leaks about the game, we know a lot more about her boss fight, which sounds like it will be one of the most unique in the entire title. Ranala will be a big boss of one of the legacy dungeons, and she will allegedly be flanked by Ranala's children, some NPCs that you can actually meet ahead of time. Now, these NPCs turn nasty in the boss fight and are, according to the leak, said to be magical, each wearing a golden ring on on their heads. Once you kill these, the boss starts to take damage, as well as getting really irritated that you've just killed her children, and leaps into the fray wielding a large staff. It sounds like one of those boss fights where you'll no doubt have to deal with lesser minions while simultaneously having to fight off a weird thing just wearing a strange mask, and you just know that she'll mutate halfway through and turn into something else as well. Come on, we can all see that coming. But also, I can't wait. Number 5. Patches the Untethered. Now, if you're a From Software fan, you know about patches. Popping up in some form or another in most of the games that they've made in the last decade, Patches is the name given to a dubious NPC who always seems incredibly friendly, but in reality is a nefarious trickster. And Patches is well known for kicking players into pits and completely messing up a run, as you usually thrust straight into a poisoned bog or a whole collection of really tough enemies. Cheers for that, mate. Now, usually you can take revenge on him too by doubling back around and using various pathways to get to him. But in a large leak of Elden Ring content, it was revealed that an incarnation of Patches will be in this game. Found inside a cave for the first time ever, if you steal some of Patches' stuff, he'll engage you in a boss fight. Apparently, if you defeat him, which is in this case taking him to half health, he'll do the Patches squat animation, and if you leave him alive, he'll become a merchant for the rest of the game. Number 4, this random giant in the open world. If you thought that Yorm the Giant was a big fella, well, there is a new giant in town, and he is looking to steal his crown. Again, this guy is a complete mystery as to what he's actually all about, but what we can see from his brief appearance in the gameplay trailer is that he's engaging the player directly in front of a mysterious tree which dominates the landscape. Now, this could mean that this particular giant is one of the game's optional field bosses, as it doesn't look like the player is inside any kind of dungeon. But again, if this is the case, the prospect of fighting a giant while utilizing the game's mount mechanic, that is a very tantalizing thought indeed. Imagine weaving in between his legs, stabbing away and summoning lightning bolts to chip away at his health while he's swatting the ground around you. Seriously, if I hadn't said it before, I need this game already. Number 3, God-Eating Serpent. Known within the community as the Serpent, a recent leak confirmed that this boss will officially be called the God-Eating Serpent. In the same leak, that person leaking the information claims that the God-Eating Serpent will be a unique boss fight similar to Yorm the Giant from Dark Souls 3. If you cast your mind back to that fight, he couldn't really be killed using traditional methods. I mean, well, he could if you were very, very, very persistent, but there was a unique item in his boss arena that was meant to help you along the way. The God-Eating Serpent will apparently use a similar mechanic, where apparently there's an item named the Serpent Slaying Spear, which is specifically empowered to do damage to the serpent. Upon reaching a certain threshold of health, the God-Eating Serpent will enter Phase 2, which according to our leaker, is kind of similar to Sekiro Died Twice's Immortal Dragon. But instead of that, you get, and this is the direct quote, lava and actually scary and difficult. Make of that what you will. Number 2, Fire Pothead. He's got a pot on his head and it's on fire. I mean, the naming convention just writes itself. Another boss that is a complete mystery, Old Pothead over here, as he has been unofficially dubbed, certainly has more than a look of Smaug from Dark Souls about him. He's a big chunky enemy with loads of armor, wields a very big and very dangerous looking mace thing, and on top of that he appears to be wielding a deadly mystical pot attached to his head which routinely belches out huge plumes of flame in your general direction. We kind of hope that the whole fight is an homage to Ornstein and Smaug, and halfway through that maybe another comrade to Pothead shows up and helps out. Maybe that one can have frying pans for legs or something equally crazy. And number 1, the Flying Stag. Briefly glimpsed literally for about 3 seconds in the first gameplay reveal for Elden Ring, we wouldn't blame you if you missed this one already due to the game's trailers hitting you constantly in the face with epic moments one after the other. We know absolutely nothing about what this creature is, why it's flying, why it looks so bloody majestic, and why it's glowing blue and leaving magical trails behind it. We definitely don't think it looks friendly though, and that the player definitely seems to be running straight into battle against it in the trailer. The actual location for this fight looks pretty interesting as well. You appear to be in some form of woodland area but darkened during the fight, and you can see several white stags galloping around the fight as well. Perhaps they'll help out their flying brethren, or maybe they're usable as mounts during the fight by the player instead. So many questions to be answered, and we can't wait to get stuck into this fight and see what the answers are for ourselves. And there we go, my friends. That was Elden Ring, 10 bosses we can't wait to fight. Hope you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, as well as how I've obviously butchered a few names here and there. I don't know, and neither does the community at this point, so I think I'm kind of safe at the moment. And if you want to chat to me further, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ, or you can swing by Live and Let's Dice, where I do all of my streaming outside of work, and it'd be great to see you over there, my friends, and I will definitely be streaming this, let me tell you that for none. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Hope you're treating yourself well with love and respect, my friend, because you deserve all of the best things in life, and do not let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise, alright? There are enough big bad bosses out there in our real lives, so let's work together to take them down as a team, because together, that's really the only way that we're going to get through this thing as a society. So go out there and smash it, you big ledge. As always, I've been Jules, you have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.